All opinions are those of the participants making them and are not an endorsement of any position, program, religion, or political affiliation. DFG's Corner is for information, observations, and entertainment. I ask that you like, share, comment, and subscribe.
People slip through the cracks a chance at a decent life. However, Chocolate Pearl, you weren't on earlier. Chocolate Pearl was lamenting on the fact that our children's age, they're not built the same. They need and this just me saying this. I'm not gonna put words in Chocolate Pearl's mouth, but um they need more coddling. They need to be led by the
I
hand.
was about to say that they need
They
a
need
lot
to
of
be,
hand holding, a
but
lot of coddling, a lot of butt patting. It's going to be okay, baby. You could get it. I believe in you, knowing that in the back of your mind, like this fool was make my
Information.
family. Yeah, yeah, like it's
but
I don't know, but people know their kids deep down.
yes,
Deep
yes we
down, they
do.
know their kids, and the ones that pretend like their kids are perfect, and their kids are the bullies and stuff like that. They know their kids are horrible people, but then you have these people that you have some people that comes from really really tough home lives that use it, that want to go to job corps so they can get out of that home and become something better. So it's a slippery slope, because you do have the ones that go there just to meet girls, or see,
Hmm.
oh, they see free money, but it's not free money. You actually have to work at a trade and go to school in order for you to get that money, and you have to have a certain GPA in those classes, in those courses, in order for you to get all your money. I know that for a fact, because I've had quite a few friends that have graduated out of Job Corps. And I have a friend that he was in the street so bad that, like you said, the it was either Job Corps or the military. He chose the military, and he's an electrician right now, making a lot of money. And and people don't think like that. It's like back in the day, they'd be like, oh, you gonna wind up being a trash man. Garbage men make a lot of money and benefits.
Yes, they do.
Sure
Yes,
Okay,
they
do.
do.
Sure do.
I
And
have
that
Don
no
Knotts
doubt.
used to make a lot of money.
Listen, I was like, I'd rather wash a man that's collecting garbage underwear than a man that's doing have a corporate degree and then making me into his basically unpaid slave. You know,
uh,
because I know
I don't think you'd be a good servant
I
being.
really wouldn't. I really wouldn't. But that's
You have too
neither here
much.
nor there.
Yeah, you have too much mouth. But
Yeah,
but that's your fault. That's your father. Um,
Hey,
but
DFG, I got some more numbers to read.
all right, go ahead. Go ahead,
Some,
Dabs.
some shocking information. Just okay, I was just looking up who actually runs each center, and doesn't give you all the information for every center, but there's one, and this is where a lot of the problem lies, and it could be fixed if if it was controlled by uh, one entity versus different bunch of different entities. And
And
we
we
know
know
each
each
job
job
corps
corps
gets
gets
different
different
money
money
and
and
different
different
amount of
amount of
money and
money
how
and
much
how
they
much.
are spent. So one contractor that runs just the Miami area, is $13 million. The Tulsa contractor was paid $14 million. Now these are yearly. The Treasure Island brought in $38 million. Center System Development Corporation runs 11 centers in San Diego, Sacramento, and San Jose, California, New Orleans, Louisiana, St. Paul. So these people are all over the place, running all these different corporations, collecting all this different money. And the government can't control it. And that's why it's out of control and it needs to be fixed.
I agree, and I like I said, I think they're subsidiaries of the private prison people. They want to make sure they got a good population you cut off the source to get them money, and then they go and do their thing, and then they wind up being a guest of the state anyway, and they pay almost the same amount of money. Um, but I appreciate you doing that, DJ Dabs. That actually adds a lot to the conversation. And here's the deal. Here's the deal. Just and like I said, it's going on. We understand that the government really doesn't care about poor people, people of color in general. They're saying they're going to do things, but the things that they're doing, what they're saying and what they're doing are two different things. And they're they're trying to condition us to just accept anything. And once we do that, we will be, we'll be Cuba or Hungary in more ways than one. Uh, you know, if you have a skill, you have an ability, find people that want to learn. Because there's some of us that don't want to learn nothing. We just we survive, we're existing. We're not living, we're not surviving, we're just existing. And we us that have something need to at least offer an opportunity for something better, since the government just throwing up their hands. And like I said, in a perfect world, they would close some centers that are underperforming and concentrate on making the other ones better. However, what DJ Dabs was saying, there are different people have different rules, and even though they're supposed to be under the same standard, people run their own. They're making 13. The people in Florida are making $13 million a year for years. How much you think of that $13 million a year they're spending on students? Maybe one. So where the other 12 million going? That's a question. That's a question we probably need to ask. The people in Tulsa, there's $14 million. How much money you think is going towards the students? Maybe 2 million. Where the other 12 million going? These are the questions that we're not really we don't we understand, but we really don't want to answer to those questions, because once you know something, you're required to your conscience will have you act on it. And that's why
And
sometimes, yeah, that's why
another. Oh, I'm sorry. I
go
was
ahead.
going to say another big thing is all those numbers they brought out about, whether which one is doing good, which one is doing bad, you know, people wise, whether Jacksonville has bad people and it's going bad. It really doesn't matter. That fact is not really what they're fighting about. They're just using those numbers to try to, deter other stuff. To try to
Yes.
justify or deter other stuff. The real problem is the big numbers like I just read. That's the real problem.
Oh,
Whether
I
there's
agree.
1,500 kids getting in trouble in Jacksonville, and only 1,200 or 200 getting in trouble in Washington. That it really doesn't matter. I mean, they're still paying too much money for what they're doing.
I agree. I agree. And that's the thing, is that they're not they're not looking at it holistically. They're just looking at the product. They're not looking at the process. Why are these people not graduating? Why is there so much, or overall, if you say, for example, there were 1,400 cases of violence. If you have 100 centers, that's less than 100 per center for a year. That's not overall. That's not bad, and that goes back to what Chocolate Pearl was saying, that you know they aggregate the numbers to make it seem bigger than what it is. However, they gotta, if you just pull it and don't have anything, then it looks bad. So they have to do something to get people to not rebel, and that's how they do it. They overinflate the importance of the numbers of the criminality, and saying that kids are not graduating, but they're not saying why they're not graduating. There's not enough detail that's given out to say, okay, these kids are not graduating because they're not attending class. They're not attending class because they're on drugs, or they're robbing folks, or they're doing.
Thanks for watching. This is the man with the golden voice, the lady's choice, and of course, smooth as a Rolls Royce, saying, never make love by the garden gate. Though love is blind, the neighbors ain't.